Okay, so welcome again, Sally, to the Zoom room. Nice to see you. So just to start, you had a something you were sharing just around your experience this morning of flow and synchronicity and so on. Do you want to do you mind sharing that for us, and then I'll just speak to that because there's some useful teaching that can come out of that.
It was just that this morning me and Lynn went out together and it just felt like such flow, and so many things were just working out, and it's felt very timeless and miracle minded. You said about synchronicity and being more awakened, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, so the Vedic teachings talk about two signs of this awakening. The first is a lack of worry. You stop worrying about the future and all of that dysfunctional mind activity related to future. And then the second one is this synchronicity that starts to happen. And synchronicity was actually a term coined by Carl Jung. So it's quite a new word, only maybe 100 years old. And it's the experience of things just happening that are seemingly very helpful, very, very beneficial in quite an effortless way. Let's actually just Google it. Synchronicity meaning. So the simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. So that's the official definition. Simultaneous occurrence of events which appear significantly related but have no discernible causal connection. What does that mean? It means, although there's no direct cause-effect relationship, there seems to be a connection. These things, I think something shows up. I'm thinking about Sue, and then boom, she shows up. You know, there's no discernible causal connection, but this seems to happen. They're related. And so more and more of that starts to happen. And that's a sign that you're waking up. It's a sign of becoming more and more miracle-minded, which is what this is all about. So your experience of life then becomes a much happier experience, a happy dream. When these kinds of things happen, you go, wow, actually, that's pretty cool. That's useful and nice, and that's helpful. And so these things happen to show you that you're on the right track. So changing your mind, and then the external domain changes. What I might do actually just show this diagram quickly. So I'll share my screen. Integral model. Yeah, can you see that?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
What starts to happen the more you sort of tap into the interior domain, and you coming from this deeper state of peace and love, joy, and these higher states, that now changes the level of form, because this is a projection of the mind. So it starts to change outcomes, performance outcomes, behavior, and so on the level of form, and we that shows up as this so-called phenomenon of synchronicity, where you can see in form that things are changing, things are showing up, and it's all seems to be really connected. And that then feeds back into this domain, the interior, and tells you, well, something significant is happening, and this is actually working. You're on the right track. And so your internal domain of thoughts and emotions gets reinforced by the external appearance of these synchronistic, miraculous events, And the purpose of those miracles is to strengthen your faith, to make you realize that actually something significant is going on, and to pay attention to that, not just to dismiss it and say, well, it's all just kind of random occurrence, to recognize that there's a connection between the way you're thinking and what happens in your life. So it's kind of law of attraction 101, except you're not trying. The difference with this is you're not trying to manifest an outcome. You're just noticing, you're observing what shows up. And that's the difference between a miracle and conscious manifestation. Conscious manifestation is I intend for something to happen, I'm desiring it, I'm visualizing it, and then, you know, when it happens, that's consciously manifests, and I notice, yes, okay, so I did that, and now I get the result. And I often then, if I don't get the result I wanted, I feel disappointed because I've set up an expectation. Whereas this way of just observing is much more just being the pure witness, the observer, able to just observe what's happening without expectation, without judgment, which is much more in alignment with spirit, because there's no then expectation of what should happen on a performance level and with the behavior. You just observe. Okay, well, that's what's showing up. And if you guide it, it's not really you doing it. You're being done through. You're just guided to speak and act in certain ways. So you realize there's no doer ultimately through that process. It's just life doing you. This eternal life presence, this loving awareness, whatever you want to call it, is doing you, coming through and making these things happen. And you take no personal credit for it. It's just interesting to observe and confirmation that you're on the right track. So you're still engaging in life, but you're not doing it anymore. And Yeshua says, "I need do nothing." What does he mean? The separate self, needs do nothing. You're not actively trying to do anything. There's no separate self trying to accomplish anything anymore. You're just being guided by the spirit, which is already whole and complete. So the experience can just be enjoyed. There's nothing you need to get out of the experience. You can just surrender to it and say, well, it's fine as it is. There's no future goal. That's the essence of the flow state. So you see how it's all one and the same. Whether you call it flow or you call it miracles or synchronicity. In the Taoism, they call it the Wu Wei. It's this flow of life that we can connect into and experience, and that's a natural tendency as you start to awaken. And that happens.
That's interesting that how you describe law of attraction. That it's the individual ego, isn't it, trying to change their life experience. And so
you're using your mind in a very conscious way to get a result that you think you want and need. And the assumption behind that is, well, when I get this, I'll be in a better state. So therefore, I'm not in the optimal state now, but when I get there, it'll be better. I'll be happier. I'll be, whatever the assumption is. Usually it's happiness. I'll be happier when I get that. So when I achieve, it's going to be amazing. When I achieve that, when I've finally got the salary I want, when I finally started the business and it's all working, when I finally met the woman or man of my dreams, and and so on, then I'll be happier. And of course that just perpetuates the illusion that you're not okay now. I'm not quite happy now, but sometime in the future, if I keep working at it and I keep striving, then I'll be happy. And of course that's the primary illusion that the Buddha noticed 2,500 years ago. He said, well, this is called craving, and you keep craving or desiring something to happen in the future, and that keeps you away from the pure formless awareness of perfect love now, because you're looking for, you're craving, you're looking for something always to happen in the future. And really what you're saying to your mind is, I'm not happy now. So that pure formless awareness of perfect love is blocked, and you have another experience of dissatisfaction. And that's what he noticed. Like the craving led to this dissatisfaction, or dukkha, as he called it. And the way out of dissatisfaction was to let go of the craving, stop desiring, and just accept right now that everything's okay. So if you look at how that relates to how you live your life, if you're living in a flow state, you're very present. You're not thinking about the future. You're very present, and you just remain rooted in that presence. And then the experiences unfold, and you're not desiring or expecting. And that keeps you connected to your true awareness. As soon as you go out of flow, you start to desire something in the future. You notice that as soon as you desire something in the future, that desire craving mechanism kicks in. It takes you out of the now, and it takes you out of your flow state. And then you're working with the egoic energy, which can manifest stuff. It's the mind. The mind is powerful, but you will never be satisfied by that, because the nature of it is it's coming from dissatisfaction. So anything that's manifested from a state of dissatisfaction is just going to breed more dissatisfaction. That's how it works.
Wow, that's good.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? So I'm doing it out of a sense of lack and dissatisfaction, and so that now is the energy that is infusing everything I'm doing. A sense of lacking, not being happy, dissatisfied, impatient, frustrated, whatever. Now that is the energy that I'm putting into the quantum field. And so it's not what you consciously want that you attract. It's the energetic quality of what you're putting out there that you get. So that's why a lot of the time people then get frustrated, and it doesn't happen. They go, I'm trying to manifest, but actually it's not happening, and this doesn't work, and they get disheartened. It's because the energy is not right. So if you're in a dissatisfied, frustrated energy trying to manifest, then you're going to create more of that. You attract more of that. And so what shows up on the level of form is things that give you more frustration and more dissatisfaction. And so the answer is get into the right state of mind. I'm in that loving awareness. I'm in the peace. I'm flowing with life. I'm very present. And then that energy is what's going into the quantum field, and then you get more of that coming at you by this law of attraction, or energetic resonance, or whatever, synchronicity, whatever you want to call it. There's some mechanism that translates into the field. It's all a field of mind that translates into the field, and then that is what you manifest. It's the fundamental quality of your energy, your energetic tone, so we call it, is what will manifest, not what you consciously desire. Which is why law of attraction is quite limited. Sometimes it works, but oftentimes it doesn't. And usually people aren't satisfied, because once they've done that, they might, briefly for a few moments or a day or two, go, okay, now I've made it. And then the pattern emerges again. Oh, well, I'm not satisfied. I'm craving again. Now I want something else. And when is it enough? If you're looking for it in the external form, when is enough? How much money do you need? How many shoes do you need? If you read stories of, so there's a lady called Imelda Marcos. Do you remember? She was apparently she had like 1,000 shoes, and there was a guy who was full-time employed just to clean her shoes. That's just bizarre. So he'd start at one, and then he'd clean them all, and by the time he had to get around to the other one, it was like time to clean the new ones. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's insane. And she never wore any of them. How can you wear 1,000 pairs of shoes? But it's just more and more and more. The mind is saying, I want more and I want more, and you're not going to be satisfied by the next shoe. Do you remember in the Shift movie? Did you watch The Shift that I recommended? Yeah. Do you remember that classic scene where they've gone to town, the yuppie couple, and they're sitting at lunch afterwards, and she says, I think I'm going to take that dress back because I think I already have it. And he's going, I waited an hour for you to buy a dress that you already have, which is, fair enough. But he was obviously, there was a lot of strain between them, so it probably wasn't the best thing to say. But it was highlighting the ridiculous nature of that thought system. Oh, I'll just go shopping for a dress that I already have, just because there's nothing else to do. Sort of frivolous consumption, and just showing that that's never going to make you happy. They were a deeply unhappy couple, because their mindset was completely wrong. They were looking for satisfaction in something external. And if I recall, when she said, "I have a baby," it was a call to him to say, "Let's get real. Let's do something more real than just spend our lives consuming, buying stuff and consuming stuff and being very superficial and shallow." And then the other thing you mentioned was about controlling time. So you said there was some you're reviewing your timeline, and it's as though things that you thought happened at a certain time didn't actually happen then. So I'll show you the timeline of consciousness. And Yeshua says in the beginning of the course, in chapter 1, he says, miracles are the only means you have at your disposal for controlling time. Because you are changing, time is perceptual. By changing your perception, you're changing time. Time is only perceptual, time isn't real. So the miracle, by definition, then involves a change in time, because you're changing your perception. And so you start to, the more you come into the present moment, the more you're rooted in this blue circle. Your awareness is rooted in this pure formless awareness, perfect love. The more the seeming events on your timeline fade. They just fade into nothingness. You realize these are just dreams, right? They're just dreams happening to this fictitious character living in the dream world, and you don't attach to them anymore. They don't give you your identity. You may still remember them. Does your entire past disappear from your memory when you're enlightened? I don't think so. I think you could still remember it, but there would be no sense of identification with that. So you don't identify yourself as the character in the dream, living the timeline, and all of the circumstances and happenings that have happened. So many people define themselves by that. We've all met people who they're still mourning the breakup of their marriage 25 years later, or they still got a grievance because they were abused as a child. Or, it's defined them. That's now their identity. And the forgiveness or letting go just says it never really happened. It's not your identity. That person isn't you, and so you can let it go. You might still have a memory of it, but the memory loses its charge. It's no longer identifying you and having the ability to change your thoughts and emotions now. That's really the key. The past is using the past to change your present state into a more negative one. That's what the ego loves to do. So when you start cleaning your mind and really letting go, then it no longer has the power to do that. You realize it serves no useful function to go back into the past and dwell on it anymore. There's no point.
But aren't memories just thoughts, stories we've made up, illusions? So as we let them go, do they not just not be in our memory? Because I feel like I've let go of most of the childhood stories, and I can't remember them now. They don't seem to exist anymore. And
well, maybe
I've changed them corrected them into a different way of thinking. So like when I think back to childhood, I've got a different memory now. So
it shows you just how how perceptual it is. Like, was any of that ever real? It's just in your memory. Can you actually prove any of that happened? No, you can't. Purely a memory. in your mind. So how real was it? You were experiencing a dream at the time. Now it's a memory of a dream. How real is a memory of a dream? Very unreal. You might still remember the incident, situation from the past, but there's no charge to it, and it doesn't really interest you anymore. Why do I want to go back into the past, into memory? I'm going into a bubble in my mind when I could just have that empty, spacious awareness right now. It will really fulfill me. So you stop doing that and just surrender into the present moment. Say, well, I prefer the spacious awareness of the present moment to anything the past, memory, or the future, expectation can offer me. I don't want to play on the timeline anymore, because I realize the timeline is unreal. It's not, there's no reality here. This is a fiction invented by the ego. I want to remain rooted in the present moment, which is the portal to eternity. Through the present moment, we're aware of this, our true awareness. So the more present you are, the more rooted in your true awareness you are, the less you're thinking about the past and the future. And then your life unfolds quite easily in this flow state because you're rooted in the present. And whatever you need to do in the present moment will be shown to you. You'll be guided to do whatever you need to do without having to expect it, desire it, fear it based on a past experience. You just operate in this very clear way.
So we were talking the other day about how some people base their whole purpose in life and their businesses on a thing that happened to them. So they have an enlightened moment and they build their life on that. And so I've got a story that started off my journey, but I feel like I can't hang on to it anymore. It's like I had to write some notes about it the other day because I could feel it was drifting and I couldn't hang on to it. It's like it's a story that somebody else told and I can't really remember it. And so I know the method is you tell somebody the story and then they get you and they understand your journey and then they can make some ego story up about you. Otherwise, they don't know how to hook into who you are, do they? But I'm really finding it difficult to hang on to the old stories. I don't know if I can anymore.
Well, you don't have to believe them. It's just a story. It's like a parable. The parable of Sally, and you're telling it to maybe help some people to on their journey. That's all. But if you don't feel called to use it, then don't use it. Just stay in peace. You know, the greatest masters teach through peace.
Yeah.
So Ramana, people would go visit him. They would say, "I have nothing to teach you." His teaching was very brief. He just asked them questions. He'd say, "Who suffers?" And he just trying to say the silence. That's where the answer lies. Just sit in silence with me, and you'll find the answer. So you become more mystic, less about the epiphany story and all of that stuff. And that can be useful. It's still, I guess, it's still available to you, but maybe you don't feel called to use it, and you start attracting people who are just like, "Wow, I want your peace. I want the peace that you represent." And interesting, your name is Sally Peace. I want that deep peace, and so show me how I can experience that peace. And you're like, okay, well, so they it's not so much the story of how you got there; it's your present state that they're connecting to. So just ask for guidance. If there's a story to be told and shared, then okay, tell it and share it. But you're not identifying with the story. It's as though you're telling a story about someone else, a character. We use story. You could use stories about Yeshua or the Buddha to illustrate a point. Okay, it's just a story about a character in a dream. You don't have to identify with it.
It feels to me as though that if I tell the story about where I was 30 years ago and what happened to me, then everyone else slots their story into my story, and it encourages them to have their own story. So by me not having a story, although I can understand some people would find that difficult, not having a story to hook into, but
well, it's a starting point. I think let's look at the hero's journey again, because it's really about meeting people where they are.
Yeah, I find that so difficult to backtrack. Yeah.
You know, a good teacher will come, they might have cycled through the hero's journey, and they come back into the hero's journey. So they've been through, you know, their journey, transformation, at-one-ment, and then they come back and they return. And you know, this is almost the greatest thing of the hero. Is you come back and you could just do your own thing and say, "Well, I'm fine, I'm okay, so I get it. I don't really need to share this with anyone." But you come back because you have this, you know, deep love and compassion for people, and you teach them. And you teach them where they're at. You remember where you were. Okay, well, when I started, well, my story was quite important to me. I thought I was, you know, you're very identified with your story and the character and the dream. And what, you know, the catalyst for you was that experience you had. That was your sort of wake up call. That was the start of the hero's journey. And so, you know, if you're talking to someone who's the beginning, they're probably in a similar state. You know, there'll be a start for them, and if you can help them to make that start by reinterpreting their life experiences, then that's very helpful to them, because it'll take them on their journey, and they need to start in order to progress and go down, you know, all the way down into the abyss and the letting go and the transformation. So it's what's appropriate for the, you know, the person. If you meet someone who's already on the other side of this, well, it's not really much point in telling them your epiphany story. It's not really any use or interest or value to them. But someone pre this, especially at the start of their adventure, you know, that story could be quite useful. They might go, "Oh, okay, so you've done it. I resonate with that. I'm in, you know, quite a similar position. You could do it. So, well, why can't I do it?" And so you give them the, you know, the hope and the courage to say, "Okay, well, someone else has done it. You're my example, and, you know, I'll follow your way."
I think
The
you hit
epiphany story might be what really helps them to you know, to connect with you and to listen to you and, you know, take your guidance, accept your guidance. And so then the spirit is using that to guide them on their journey, and that's all fine. That's perfect.
Yeah, I think most of the people I work with now don't need the story. I think I'm thinking back in time to when I used to work with a lot of people that had their story and wanted to know my story. But yeah, I think the new people I work with are just take me as I am. Nobody needs a story. Yeah, so that makes that very clear for me.
Yeah, use it if it, you know, use it if it's appropriate. You might come across someone, you go, yeah, you know, that their story is quite similar to mine. Then that would probably be helpful. But if they're already clients, you don't need to tell your story really, because they're already there. You know, you don't need to impress them, or so it's only if it was useful for teaching purposes.
Yeah.
And you'll just be guided. And, you know, okay, it's still there. You haven't forgotten the story, but it's like a movie. You've watched a movie, you remember the movie, but there's no identification with the character. It's just a story, just a movie.
Yeah.
You can just observe and go, okay, well, that was, you know, the Sally character and the story, and I don't really identify with it anymore, but it's useful. I could use it if necessary. So it's all in your toolbox. You know, the whole of your life experience is there to draw upon if you need it, but you don't identify with it. It's not, you realize it's not you.
Yeah, I think it's because it's not in the focus of my mind. But if it was needed for teaching purposes, it would pop up in my memory and I'll be able to remember it.
It would. So the Holy Spirit, remember, can access, it can reinterpret your entire experience. The Holy Spirit could go to the past and say, okay, well, I know it's not really real, but in this instance, it could be useful to tell the story, because that's going to help someone to awaken to the present moment of, you know, what the loving awareness that's here now. And so then it will inspire you to tell the story. And you just got to trust that presence. You know, the more remember, you're not doing it. If you really guided, that intelligence will guide you. It'll show you exactly what to say and what to do. So you see why the miracle is the only device at your disposal for the control of time.
Yeah.
Because it comes in, the miracle is when you access the now, the oneness in the now, and now the past and the future disappear in your awareness. And actually what you're doing, the more you do that, is you're collapsing the whole story. The timeline is built on a story. You collapse the story and the identity of a false self. You also collapse time. There's no need for time anymore. And so, you know, how that plays out in the matrix is often things happen quicker, you get lessons quicker. You don't need necessarily to stay here as long. It's an acceleration of your journey. And it's not conscious. You're not saying, I consciously want to manifest that now and speed it up. It just happens because you're going out of time. You're going into the oneness. So you're collapsing time. And when you do that, then things change in the quantum field. And the different stuff starts showing up. So you're not trying to control it per se and say, oh, you know, well, now I want this to happen, and now I want this to happen, like goal setting. Oh, well, do you remember those ridiculous, I don't know if you ever tried this, but they'd say, well, set a 10-year goal, 20 years, start at 20 years, set a 20-year goal. And then you want to break it down to 10 years, and then to 5, and then to 3 and 2. And, you know, to a scientific materialist in a very linear way, that makes sense. But you realize very quickly in doing that life just doesn't work that way. How can you possibly know in 20 years what you want? What you're saying then is that in 20 years, I'll still be in the same state of consciousness as I am now. Still want the same thing. Well, how can you possibly know that? So you quickly realize, you know, the goal setting is ridiculous. Being present, much, much more powerful. And then things will just show up. You know, whatever's synchronistic and helpful on your journey of awakening will show up for you. Without any emphasis on it, without attachment to form. You just experience it. Okay, it's just an experience. It comes and it goes. Everything comes, it arises, and then it passes away. But I can enjoy the experience moment by moment. Just allow it to be. Without any desire, without any expectation, without any judgment. That's the flow state. That this teaching will lead us into. And when we're in flow, our perception of time is different. We have a very different experience of time. I think back to some of my experiences when I've really been in flow, time, it's not the same. You have a sense of being in the timeless moment, and you have no sense of time passing. It can just kind of happens. You go, was that an hour? I mean, on clock time that was an hour, but you didn't feel like an hour. There was no time because you were totally in the present moment. So you're working in time, but you're not of time. Be in the world, but not of the world. You're in time. These experiences are unfolding, but you're not of it. You don't root yourself in time. Past, future really is what you've got to be aware of. Thinking about the past, thinking about the future. If you're doing that, then time is very real for you. And if you're just present, then time is not there. It's only the present moment, which is no time. No time or timeless. Okay, so shall we have a look at today's teaching? Where are we? You want to read the quote and my little post about it?
Is freedom anything else than the right to live as we wish? Nothing else. Today's inspirational quote by ancient Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus how do you say it?
Epictetus, I think.
Epictetus is as true today as it was then, having just been through a pandemic when various worldly authorities tell us what to do and how we should live our lives, supposedly for our own protection. It's worth pondering this quote and asking yourself what you really want. Do you really want to be governed by the laws of this world that are rooted in the ego's guilt, fear, and desire to control your mind? Or do you want to listen only to the laws of God, which are the laws of unconditional love, because God is perfect, i.e. unconditional love?
Yeah, any thoughts on that?
Freedom is beyond the body, isn't it? Freedom is knowing you're not a body. Freedom is in the spiritual realm for me.
And that's a choice. All the time in a day, you're being asked to choose. Well, how do you perceive this? Do you perceive it with the body's eyes, from the perception of a separate self, making all of the physical real, or do you perceive it differently with this loving awareness we call the Holy Spirit guiding your perception? And we face the laws of this world repeatedly in our daily lives. You're living in it, so you face the law of gravity is continuous. That seems to be pretty ubiquitous in your experience. What keeps us from floating off the chair? I suppose it's a good thing, really. It would be quite difficult. You were floating around the room to do this kind of thing. But the point is, it's constant. You've got constantly the laws of the ego are with us in this physical domain. But how you perceive them is up to you. So that's where choice comes in. So, but these physical laws like gravity, but that can also be transcended.
I've seen things happen, that don't follow the rules at all.
Advanced meditators can levitate. Moonwalking monks in Tibet practice they call Langompa. These guys can go meters with a single step.
It'd be nice to see, because I think once you see somebody do it, it helps you to believe that's possible. I was watching a feather a little while ago, and it was on the floor, and then it just went straight up from the floor up to the ceiling, and disappeared. And normally feathers, because they're light, would normally go like this, and quite often I see a feather come straight down in front of me. It will just come out of the ceiling out of nowhere, and they just come straight down. And in my head I'm going, feathers do not come straight down, feathers float down. I'm watching the experience. Is quite funny. And one day I was in the bathroom. I just got out of the shower, so there's no clothes in the room or anything, and this pound coin materialized out the ceiling, and it fell to the floor. And you have that moment like, what just happened there? And I picked it up, and it was hot. This pound coin was really hot, and I was going through a phase of playing with physical mediumship, and it was just like, I told a few people, and everyone said, no, it didn't. You must have shook a towel and it fell out of the towel. And I go, no, because when these things happen, something draws me to the attention to look. So I look up and I see the feather, or I look up and I saw the pound manifesting. Something non-physical was telling me, look. And then like the pound coin was hot. It wouldn't have been hot normally, a coin that wasn't touched by anything. And I had these experiences for quite a while, and I still do, I suppose. And but you tell anyone, and they go,
explains
no,
where
you're wrong.
all the missing pound coins go.
Yes. Somebody had lost a pound coin and I gained it. Yes, I did think that. Yeah.
It's been sucked into a vortex and appears somewhere else. But these physical laws, you start to see that they are very flexible. That they're not absolute. As Morpheus said to Neo, he said, you must learn that they can be bent and they can be broken. because it's all just it's a matrix. It's a perceptual, mind created domain. So none of these laws are absolute and eternal, including things like gravity and time space relation. Like, where does the pound coin come from? How does that happen? I've had I've had coins manifest in my pocket. How did that happen? To this day, there's no way I can explain it. There's no physical way I can say, that's, you have to go to the transcendent, the spiritual, to explain it. And those, if even one miracle is true, then the laws of time and space don't always hold, and then there's something else. This is why scientific materialists who rooted in the idea that only this is real, the external world is real, they will deny steadfastly every miracle, no matter how much their evidence, because that one miracle shows, that is evidence that their paradigm is incorrect. There's something else to be explained by their model of the world. How do coins manifest in a pocket, or feathers float down from the ceiling, or A Course in Miracles book manifest in a boot, in the boot of a car? How does that happen? It shouldn't be possible by the laws of time and space. So then you have to look beyond those laws, which is exactly what he's asking us to do in today's lesson. And realize you're not bound by these laws. Even laws like gravity and so on can be transcended. And then he talks about all the laws of nutrition, of immunization, medication, body's protection in innumerable ways, including the seeming laws of friendship, good relationships, reciprocity, and even those which tell us what is God's and what is ours. So these he's giving us a pretty good summary, quick summary of all these laws that we think we believe in. And he's saying these are all made up by the ego, or the belief in separation. Not to keep you safe, but to keep you continuously in fear and condemn you, as Yeshua points out in this passage from lesson 76. So if you want to read that.
You think you must obey the laws of medicine, of economics, and of health. Protect the body and you will be saved. These are not laws, but madness. The body is endangered by the mind that hurts itself. The body suffers just in order that the mind will fail to see it is the victim of itself. The body's suffering is a mask the mind holds up to hide what really suffers. It would not understand it is its own enemy, that it attacks itself and wants to die. It is from your laws would save the body.
It's from this.
And it is from this your laws would save the body. Bizarre. It is for this you think you are a body. Yeah, it's always a good one, this one. Always makes me smile, kind of, a little chuckle, but at the same time knowing, I'm doing it as well.
Very profound. The body suffering is a mask the mind holds up to hide what really suffers. So then you focused on the body suffering and not on the mind. And so your attention's been redirected into body to avoid looking at your mind. And that's the purpose of physical illness. That's what people use it for.
Yeah, we were just talking about this morning, about the body suffering. And hopefully Lynn's going to come on the call in a minute. We'll see.
I saw that. Still in the background there. Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about how, it's puzzling in some ways when you get stuck on a subject and you can't let that particular suffering go. It's really interesting.
You're talking about a specific instance, or?
Oh, just that I've got a wobbly, achy tooth that's been going on for ages and ages and ages. And it's like, I keep going within and I keep sitting with it and I'm being mindfulness and
I journal, I do instrument of peace, you know, I meditate with it, and it keeps bringing up lots of learnings, admittedly, but you know, it's still showing me something.
Yeah, it's just a total letting go. I mean, when you can let go of that completely, then you've let go of all body identification. So that's why a little issue like a tooth can take you all the way to enlightenment if you allow it to. It doesn't have to be. The beauty of this is you don't have to suffer greatly. I mean, you don't need like terminal cancer or something really, you know, dramatically wrong. You can learn from just a tooth.
So what's going through my head at the moment is that I would like to say I let it go, but I don't. When I say let it go, it sounds like the tooth's going to fall out, and I don't want to let the tooth fall out. So I've got a bit of conflict between what's real and what's not. But yes,
well, why is there even any intention about the tooth? Because the tooth's not real.
Yeah, I know. I keep telling myself there, but there's some conflict there that I'm scared to let it go, and I suppose that's the ego scared that I'll let go of all body
identification. Yeah. So you let go of the tooth. The tooth is the thin edge of the wedge for the ego, because like, oh, okay, well, she's actually letting go of the whole body. Tooth is just symptomatic part of this body construct. It's not real. So if she gets this and she can let go of the tooth, then I'm in deep trouble, because that's it. You know, she's realized that she's not a body, and she can let go of whatever body condition. Yes, and so there's no more identification with body, no more identification with form. Well, you're ready for leaving this world. There's nothing to hold you here.
And that's how it feels. It feels like it's the niggle that keeps me here. It's like not quite the root of it, but it's like the root of it is wobbly. And that's my, you know, final beliefs that are just hanging on there. Yeah, it's difficult to put it into words, isn't it? But it does feel like that.
Yeah, and so that's why it's hard to let. You say, well, why is it so hard to let go? Because that letting go is letting go of the entire character, story, dream, time and space, collapsing the whole thing. The dream disappears. Sally no longer exists. You go back to pure formless awareness of perfect love, and this entire world and universe disappears. I mean, that's not insignificant. That all comes because you're willing to let go of your body identity. So then the tooth, this is why, you know, each situation and each issue becomes where, you know, the battleground between the Holy Spirit and the ego, because how you perceive that is then symptomatic of the entire thought system that you believe in.
Okay.
So every issue becomes important, because how you perceive it is, the issue itself is not important, but it represents an entire thought system and reality. You know, and that's why the ego is so fixated on the detail often, and it gets, you know, very, very caught up in its miscreations, because it knows that if it lets those go, that's the thin edge of the wedge. That's another thought system now coming in that will, if it's applied across the board, will undo it. So it can't have that.
Yeah.
But that's why people will want to be right at all costs. It's like, no, I'm right. Because it makes their ego right. It makes their ego real. And if they let it go and say, well, it's like, okay, I don't need to be right, that's the start. That's the thin edge of the wedge for the ego. That, well, then if you keep doing that, that's going to undo it. So it stops them at, you know, at step one. So no, you don't want to do that. Actually, my way, you know, the way of judgment and condemnation, that's what's going to keep you safe.
Yeah. So rather than focusing on the tooth, I'm focusing on letting go of my body identity.
Yeah, and maybe shift the focus. Instead of focus on letting go, focus on the essence. Focus on the formless, pure formless awareness, and go into that experience. This is a bit like, I want to let go of this. And the more you think of letting it go, the more you think of it that you've got to let go of. You know, that's the paradox of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I really, really want to let go of this tooth. I really want to, and then you focus on the tooth, and the tooth is real in your perception. So you want to kind of trick the mind in the same way as you use like breath work, not to think about, you know, things on the level of form. You go, okay, well, just meditate, go into formless awareness, where the tooth doesn't exist. The tooth is not an issue, and so you transcend it by taking your mind into this higher awareness. And having that experience, you then transcend this level entirely, and you come back. So let's say you do a deep meditation, and you know the tooth pops up again in your mind, and now there's a different perception of it, because you've been into this pure formless awareness that's completely transcended the tooth.
Yeah, so Lynn and I are going to play a transformation game later. We've told you about that, haven't we, before?
Hi, Lynn.
And we have to think up an intention to play the game on. So would the intention be then just to be focused on pure formless awareness of perfect love, and don't mention the tooth, don't mention body issues? I wonder.
We'll try that. I've never played the transformation game, so I don't exactly know how it works.
It's just spiritual intervention that guides us through a journey. Lynn's got aches you were going to work with. What was your thing?
Yeah, I wasn't sure how to word it, but it was to release whatever's causing my body aches, because you know, it's shouting out to me. It's pain and stiffness that I want to release, and whatever's causing it, I'd like to get to the bottom of it. So
drop the desire. You see what it's doing, the ego. Now you desire for something to be different than what it is, and that's called resistance or aversion. So it's another form of desire. It's very subtle, isn't it? So aversion is a craving, but it's I don't want that to be. I want it to be something else. And that keeps you in the resistance pattern, which of course the ego likes. So then it doesn't drop it.
So how do I approach it then?
So go into this awareness. You go into a deeper state of meditation, and you just allow your mind to go into an awareness where there is no body and there is no form. You're not focusing on trying to let it go. You're just transcending it into another awareness. So you've raised your mind into that awareness. When you come out of it, then that whatever that body condition is, you will perceive it differently. There will be a subtle shift in your perception. The more you go into formless awareness, the more your perception will naturally tend to shift.
Yeah,
try that.
The good thing
instead of
about
craving that, desiring that this should go, that's another form of desire. You see.
Yeah.
It's saying, I'm going to go here. I'm going to give it over. Give it to spirit. What does that mean? It means I'm allowing my mind to go into pure formless awareness. And just to drop the whole thing. I'm not even thinking about it. There's no trying to let it go. And so you go into another level of awareness where this doesn't exist, the body doesn't exist. So Sally, you've experienced that, that mystic state. And in that, the body conditions will tend to heal. I mean, look at Anita Majani, like terminal cancer, serious, apparently very serious. And she goes into that awareness. And then when she comes out of it, that awareness has healed her body. Her body those conditions just resolve. Not because she was trying to let them go. She just had that experience, and this is the essence of life. So of course it's going to heal. If you really immerse in that, it's going to heal whatever body condition is not life, is a symptomatic of death.
Because that is letting go, isn't it? Once you're in that pure formless, you completely go, haven't you?
No. Yeah.
coming.
If you're finding it a sticky issue, I'm trying to let this go and you can't. What's happened is you're trying to let it go from the level of the ego rather than transcending it. So if you can go into just the experience, do a meditation or something, go into the experience of pure formless awareness and allow that experience to arise, then of course you're letting it go. There's no other experience. It's been let go of fully in that experience. So now you immerse yourself in that experience. You come back and you've been free of it. You have let it go for that time. Now you come back, there's be a subtle shift in your perception. You might still be able to think about it and you might still feel it, but something's changed. The more you do it, the more likely it is that the whole situation is just going to resolve itself. Because in pure formless awareness or perfect love, that condition doesn't exist. So the more you identify your mind with this, the more this reflects on the level of form.
So I don't need to know what I'm doing to myself to create that happening to me.
It's all unreal. So you can go into, you see, this is what the ego tries to do. It tries to suck you in. Okay, well, let's go analyze it and let's understand it. And if you've ever been to psychotherapy or psychoanalysis, this is what they do over and over. We go to the past, and this is the story, and this is how it worked, and understand it. But what you're doing is you're making the character real. You're making the story real for you. And that doesn't really heal, because the story is real, the character is real, and you keep on with the story. So this just says, right now, go into this. Whatever seems to be arising, just allow this awareness to arise. You've probably found some resistance. The ego wants to keep you in your story, but you just use the spiritual practices like meditation to bypass that. Things like watching your breath and observing body scanning can be quite effective. So a good way of doing this would just to get you
take a breath, and we both took a breath.
Yeah.
We synchronized our breath when you said it.
Did you? Good. So breath awareness, and then the body scan awareness can also help, because it's well, how do you get into this awareness? That's the question. And so the Buddha said, okay, well, you've got all this stuff going on in the body, so let's just use awareness and bring it into the body, and now you're looking at the body in a different way. So instead of going, oh, there's a pain there, and then you're judging it and you're trying to get rid of it, that's aversion. You just observe it. So you're taking your mind in that instance into this pure formless awareness, you see. Now, pure formless awareness is now just observing this. No judgment, no like, I want it, I don't want it, none of those judgments. Just I observe it. It's a sensation in the body. That's it. It's a sensation. I experience it as some sensation. I don't interpret it. I don't judge it. I move through that area of my body and I go to something else and I observe that.
That's weird, because I've been doing that since I did that session with you, where you said about that, and I've managed to get rid of all my headaches before they've got really bad since then. So why am I not doing it for my hips and my knees and my back? And
well, because the ego is still maybe it's more invested there. It's saying to you, well, no, this is somehow different, and so you need to have a different approach to these. But
there is a difference in my head about it.
And those differences are how it works. Instead of saying, well, look, there's only one answer to this. The answer is always the same. It doesn't matter what the condition is. And this explains it. If you read this paragraph again, this is from lesson 76, and I think it'll resonate with you.
Oh dear. No.
Okay, I'll make it bigger.
Thank you.
We can go to lesson 76. It's actually here.
It is insanity. Is that the one?
I'll make it a little bit bigger here. Is that big enough?
Yeah.
Was that too big now?
That's too big now because some of the words are covered up by
the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
so the one back was okay.
We'll go to 150. There we go. 150%. Okay, so read from it. Is insanity that thinks these things. In fact, read. There's some real power in this. So think of the freedom. Read this. Think of the freedom and the recognition.
Think of the freedom in the recognition that you are not bound by all the strange and twisted laws you have set up to save you. You really think that you would starve unless you have stacks of green paper strips and piles of metal discs. Yes. You really think a small round pellet or some fluid pushed into no I don't believe that will ward off disease. No, I don't believe any of that. It's a money thing for me. You really think that you are alone unless another body is with you. Yeah, okay, I can see that.
So he's getting you on some of them. It's like, okay, so these are the illusions. You really think this. And then he's saying, but it's insanity.
Yeah. And somebody told me a while ago, and I didn't understand it when they told me, and Sally tried to help me understand it as well. Someone told me that I compartmentalize things, and it's becoming clearer and clearer how the same rules apply, and I only apply them to certain things.
And that's how the ego defends itself.
Yeah.
Because if you apply this universally to everything without exception, there's no space for the ego anymore. It's got to go. So it'll go, okay, you can do it in that instance, but don't do it in another. And it wants to keep the healing from being universal.
Yeah, I have been. So shall I carry on reading?
It is insanity that thinks these things, yeah.
It is insanity that thinks these things. You call them laws and put them under different names in a long catalogue of rituals that have no use and serve no purpose. You think you must obey the laws of medicine, economics, and of health. Protect the body and you will be saved.
Yeah. Anything hitting home there? Oh, wait, he's just warming up. This one is a very good one. It's a lovely paragraph, very profound.
These are not laws but madness. The body is endangered by the mind that hurts itself. I know that very, very well. The body suffers just in order that the mind will fail to see it is the victim of itself. I'm making my joints stiff and sore. It's just that child in me says, why? The body's suffering is a mask the mind holds up to hide what really suffers.
Does that make sense? Body suffering is a mask.
Yeah, it's just my mind that's suffering.
Mind holds up to hide what really suffers.
It would not understand it is its own enemy, that it attacks itself and wants to die. It is from this your laws would save the body. It is for this you think you are a body.
Yeah? Resonate?
Yeah. See, this is okay. This one might be ego. So I knew it's my mind making my body hurt because obviously I don't take medicines. I don't do any of those things. So any healing that goes on in my body is because I work on spiritually healing it. But
the problem is, Lynn, you're still trying to heal the body.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So my thing
and not
for
the
today,
mind. Your job is to transcend the body, not to try and heal the body, you see.
Yeah.
Healing will happen when you transcend the level of body awareness, naturally. So you go into this state of mind. You go above the body into that awareness. You're not body aware. You're not trying to heal the body anymore.
Just my mind.
You're just healing your mind. In this pure formless awareness of perfect love, you're whole, you're complete. You're having you're home. That's your true home. That's where you belong, not in the body. Then the body responds to that in a healing way. Anita Mojani's story. She went fully into this for 30 hours. And that was enough to heal her body of, terminal cancer. That doctors were like, we can't believe this is, healed. We've never seen anything like this. Someone at this advanced stage, it would seem to be impossible. So there's nothing this can't do, but she didn't try and heal it on the level of the body. There's no way that was ever going to happen. She just went into the transcendent awareness, and that did the healing automatically. It just happened. And she made a decision. Yes, I want to stay.
Yeah.
She'd made that decision, and she accessed this pure formless awareness of perfect love very deeply. And so the combination of her decision and that awareness, which is life itself, healed the body. The cancer, which is a manifestation of the thought system of death, could no longer sustain in the face of that life presence. So that's the way to do healing. You're not trying to fix the body.
Literally never, ever, ever focus on the physical.
No. Don't go, I've got a pain, now I'm trying to get rid of the pain, because you're on the body level. And of course, then the ego is, okay, well, we'll just keep you on that level then, trying to get rid of the pain, still not happening. And you can try all kinds of, spiritual, magical means. Because even if you're using your mind, you're not using pills or something, you're still trying to fix the body. Do you see that?
Yeah.
So you're making the body real. And this mode of healing is saying, don't focus on the body level, because the body level isn't true. Just go into this awareness, transcend the body level, and you'll find that healing just happens on the body level. Because this is the source of all life. This heals. It's a healing presence. So you bring it into your experience, and you replace the pain and the suffering that the ego's created with this. It's a substitution of one for another. The more time you spend in this, the more the pain and the suffering will fade away. And you stop playing the game of holding this up as a mask to hide what really suffers. So
that was the one.
you see how the ego is very cunning. It's working in a way to try and get you to focus on the healing. It'll say, oh, well, I only use spiritual means, but I'm still focusing on healing the body. So I'm still identifying myself as a body, and I'm still focused on the sense perceptions of the body. And now I'm trying to get rid of it. So you're actually holding the suffering up as a mask to prevent you from looking at the mind. It's the idea of separation, the idea of being Lin. That's the problem.
I'd say.
That's the problem. The idea that you're a separate self. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And the body is symptomatic. All of the aches and the pains are symptomatic of a separate identity. So this approach is saying we'll go into the space of pure formless awareness of perfect love, where Lin doesn't exist, and there's just pure formless awareness, and that will then heal your mind, and that follows then into the body level. So this is a double arrow. You go the one way, you go into that awareness, then you come back, and you now have an awareness of, maybe there's still a pain, but it's not the same. You don't perceive it in the same way. One of the ways of doing it is so how do I actually do this? Well, meditation is the obvious way. And if you practice the Vipassana, that's probably going to be a helpful technique for you, because you can just observe, right? What you're really doing is observing the pain in the body, but without interpreting it. There's no judgment to this. There's no going, oh, that shouldn't be there. I want to get rid of this. That's aversion.
Definitely what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that, unfortunately, that keeps it there, because the aversion is the resistance that maintains it there. You've made it real in your
real. Yeah.
So it's going to maintain. So the Vipassana, the Buddha, I mean, he's a very smart guy. He worked out that if you just took your awareness, this higher awareness, and you were able to observe the body from that awareness without any judgment. So you weren't judging it, you weren't labeling it. There was no story to the whatever the sense perception, whatever the sensation was. What you did was you then neutralized the karma of it. You neutralized the negative, egoic, psychological, and emotional attachment to that, which is then your separate self. you see. So just by bringing awareness into the sensations, you're neutralizing the ego's psychological and emotional attachment, which is its identity. And then it's just a sensation. That's it. Sensation. That's all. You're not saying, oh, well, I want the sensation to go. I'd be better off without it. None of that. You just observe it. And then you find it dissipates. The sensation dissipates. It's no longer being used to create a story. You're dissolving the story by the practice of just observing it without interpretation and judgment. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And that's quite smart. That's a really good technique that will help you to free your mind from that body identification.
Okay.
Through the body. So just you observe it, but observe it non-judgmentally. Not, oh, I need to fix this. Oh, that's bad. Oh, that's a pain. You don't even call it a pain. What is it? It's just a sensation. And you just observe the sensation, and it feels prickly or tingly or scratchy or itchy or, what is it? Like in the end, that's all it is. And then you go, oh, well, is that really pain? No, not really. It's just a sensation. And suffering is the interpretation of pain that then creates mental and emotional suffering, psychological suffering. And that's just the way your mind is wired up at the moment, to look at the body and to create suffering from it. But you can change that through the discipline practice of something like a meditation, like meditation technique, like Vipassana will work. You can use the workbook lessons to go into a meditative state where you transcend it. You're just not aware of it anymore. You're going into a part of your mind where you're not body conscious and you're not body aware. The more you do that, the more likely it is that the body will heal. But you've got to let go of the desire to heal the body.
Yeah, totally. But from what you've just said then as well, it's made me realise that, because sometimes I suddenly become aware that I haven't got any of that pain or stiffness anymore. So there's that part of me that knows it's not real. But obviously I keep taking myself back to that place where it feels real.
Because that's the story of Lynn. Why is it real? I don't know if you've had many body conditions in your life, difficulties.
No, not really, thank goodness. So
really, but it's a story that keeps you rooted in the separate identity of Lynn, identified with the body, or the body's aging, or the story of death. That's the whole story playing out. And maybe there's a fear of getting older, body decaying, losing your looks, all this kind of stuff comes into it.
Yeah.
And it's looking at that and saying, the character isn't me. It really doesn't matter, because I'm not the body. I'm not identified at all with this physical vehicle. I am just this pure awareness that is beyond all of this. And so just keep bringing yourself back to that. I'm just this awareness and nothing else. And the more you can experience that, the more likely it is that the body conditions will disappear, because they're not necessary anymore. They've been used by the ego for its purposes, to perpetuate the self-concept. Well, if you no longer believe in the self-concept, if you no longer play the game of holding the body's suffering up as a mask to cover over the mind's suffering, then there's no game anymore. There's no need for the body suffering.
Yeah. New intention.
We have to change our game this afternoon.
Yeah.
Good timing conversation.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. And so you see often why the sort of normal traditional advice doesn't work, because you're focusing on the problem and trying to solve it at the level of the problem. Well, that's not going to work. You've got to transcend into another level of your mind. Easier said than done, but I think something like Vipassana will do that. The meditations we do, just say, go into the silence, go into the stillness, go beyond the body. That's how you do it. The more time you spend in that state of not being aware of the body, the more likely the body conditions are to go.
When I do mindfulness or being present with my tooth, I love it. You know, it's so enjoyable and it's just so lovely. It's just like, it's nothing better than just feeling the energy and just noticing it, observing it, not getting involved with it. It's just really lovely. And when I was out this morning, as I was walking, I was saying the mantra, I am pure formless awareness of perfect love. There's nothing going on with my body when I'm saying that, for sure. So yeah, it makes it all very clear.
If you can use something like that, I am pure formless awareness of perfect love, as an anchor into that state. So if you find yourself drifting into body awareness, just using it to correct your mind. Take it out of that this state of identification with the body, and through that simple phrase, you take yourself into this awareness.
It's completely different. Just doing it now, just as you're saying it, it completely switches my role from body, looking at oneness, to being in the pure formlessness, being vaguely aware of all the rest. Yeah, it's such a difference, isn't it?
And so that that's why these words are so powerful, because if you can use the word as a tool to get into this state and stay there, that changes your whole perception of everything. So if you can get one, pure formless awareness of perfect love works for you, get one phrase that's your anchor, and it anchors you into this higher state. And you can switch, but with the anchor. You're probably familiar with neuro-linguistic programming. It's using that, but this is just, we're not going into some state on the body level. We're going into the ultimate transcendent state of your true awareness using the anchor. So, come up with an anchor, Lynn, that works for you. Okay, that word, that phrase, and then you just repeat it. Okay, that's what I use to take me out of body awareness into I am pure formless awareness. What might do it? It might be a good anchor. Whatever works for you to take you into your deeper awareness, away from the body. And then whenever the body comes back and the body identification starts, and you start focusing on the physical problem, you use the correction, use the anchor to take you out of that into this. And that process can happen in seconds. It doesn't have to take a long time.
When we're having a body sensation, we're not in the now, are we? So it's like a red flag. You've gone off into the past.
So it's interpretation of the body sensation. That's the problem, you see. So that's arising. If I just experience it, I'm just the witnessing presence of that, then I'm in the now, aren't I? I'm just in awareness. But if I start to go, this isn't good, I should fix this, maybe I should go visit the doctor, oh no, maybe try something else, maybe this spiritual magic will work, or whatever. Now you're out of the now, aren't you? You've gone out of that awareness, you've covered it over, and you're now in the thinking mind, you're in future, trying to figure this out, to fix the problem that you think's a problem. But you've made it into a problem through your perception.
So in the now, you can still, in the now you can still sense the energy, can't you? But yeah, without a story, it doesn't mean anything.
Without a story. So it's just a sensation.
Yeah.
Okay, so your tooth is a sensation.
Yeah.
No story to it. There's no, I need to fix this, I need to change it. I just purely observe it. That's the whole, Vipassana technique. And the reason why it's effective is because what is observing must be your true awareness. So you're bringing your awareness through the practice of just observing it into the situation and transmuting it. And then healing will happen naturally. Without trying to heal it, you'll heal it. But let go of the desire to heal it. It's actually a practice. The point of the exercise is to practice this for your mind. It's mind training. To learn how to identify with this awareness. That's the point, not to heal the body. As soon as you devolve into, oh, no, I'm doing this because I want to heal the condition. Do you see what you've done?
Yeah.
Sneaky, the ego. You got to really watch it. Then you've gone into outcome orientation rather than just being aware of this. And that outcome orientation now takes you into future. Oh, well, this, and then you go, will it work? What happens if it doesn't work again? Then I'll be disappointed again. And the mind's going off, and pure formless awareness is covered over by those thoughts.
Wow.
So you start to see how powerful this is as a methodology for solving these kinds of problems. It's enormous. It's like, wow, just a way of perceiving, a way of paying attention, that makes all the difference. It's a problem-solving technique par excellence. But you have to apply it and not be sucked into, the ego's. The ego's always got a plan, which won't work, and it's always going to be the alternative to the Holy Spirit. And so this mind training is just getting to know what the plan of the ego is and what the plan of the Holy Spirit is. And going, okay, those are two different plans. And I can't accept both. I must listen to one or the other.
Like you were saying earlier about the law of attraction 101, which is trying to change it on the physical level. I'll be happy when my tooth is stable again. It's not true.
No, it's not true, because actually you still are pure formless awareness of perfect love right now, and that happiness and peace and everything you need is there right now, and the tooth has actually no impact on that.
Yeah.
Unless you allow it to impact it.
Yeah.
So it takes a discipline, and the mind training is, okay, I've got to be disciplined in my practice of this, in consistently taking my mind into this awareness and avoiding the temptation to get rooted onto the timeline and the story and the drama of it. Avoid that temptation. Just
I've been ignoring it, but I've been ignoring it in resistance. Hoping that it'll go away if I just ignore it, but I'm still resistant. Yeah. All right.
So transcend it. Go into an awareness where it's not there. And you've been there. You know how to go there. It's that pure formless awareness. And the more time you spend in that, and then bring that awareness into, like, now, then you're in that deep state. Then you observe that sensation. And you're just, okay, my perceptions change of it. It's just a sensation. And it's very removed. It's just like, the character's experiencing a little tingling in the mouth. But it's not really me. It's just a sensation. You always get this feeling of, I'm this pure formless awareness, and then into that awareness come these little, bubbles, thought bubbles, and little experiences. But I'm not really identifying with those. They're just, little things that crop up. But actually, there's this vast spaciousness that actually underlies them. That's much deeper, higher, if you like. And I stay in that. I rest in that state. And the little blips don't really affect me. It's like, well, it's just a little tiny blip. I mean, imagine a perfectly white canvas, and there's just a little tiny speckles. That's what the tooth pain is, a little tiny speckle.
Yeah.
That actually has no reality, really. And so you bring the awareness, and it's tiny compared with the vast spaciousness of the underlying canvas. It's tiny. So you just go into that spacious awareness, and the speckle will disappear. It can't possibly sustain against the background of pure white. But if you focus on the speckle, then it seems to get bigger. And now that grows into your whole, it's like, although the spacious awareness is still there, your attention becomes too narrow and it becomes focused on the dot. So you get smaller and smaller, and now that dot becomes huge. Now that dot seems to surround you, and you're in this dark bubble, and you've disconnected yourself from the spacious awareness entirely. But actually the dot was the same. It's just your perception of the dot that's the problem. It hasn't really got bigger. It's only bigger in your mind. So use all these, these tools. Canvas meditation, that could be useful. Thinking of that. Pure formless awareness of perfect love as a phrase. The Vipassana, which maybe we can do as a meditation in the session, and it's got to go. Because nothing can sustain against the power of pure formless awareness. So it's a fundamental awareness of your mind. No illusion can sustain against that. Okay, so any questions or comments on that? Make sense?
Yeah.
So let's have a look.
Okay.
Then we're at the lesson, so let's have a look at the lesson today, which is lesson 277. Yeah, what are we doing on time? So he said by 2:45. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll skip the Christ. What is the Christ? And we'll just do the lesson and the meditation.
Okay.
You can experience that. Okay, so you want to read the original and the alternative.
I've been reading it all day.
Let me not bind your son with laws I made. I do not bind myself with laws I made. Your son is free, my father.
Yeah.
Oh, the alternative.
No, you can read the original if you want.
Let me not imagine I have bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. He is not changed by what is changeable. He is not slave to any laws of time. He is as you created him, because he knows no law except the law of love.
Okay. So read the alternative, and then we'll unpack it line by line, shall we?
Your extension is free, my source. Let me not imagine I've bound myself with the laws I made to rule the body. I am not. Oh,
Pause it there. Yeah. Let me not imagine I've bound myself with the laws I made to rule the body. Does that resonate?
yeah.
These are all laws you make. You believe in them. When you're thinking in the body identity, you make those laws real. But it's just in your mind. A belief system to rule the body.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll continue.
I am not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. I am not changed by what is changeable. I am not slave to any laws of time. I am as you extend me, because I know no law except the law of love.
I know no law. I know no law except the law of love. So passages like this, see what he's doing? He's trying to take you into this higher awareness, isn't he? I know no law but the law of love. He's trying to take you into this awareness, through this meditation, through this lesson, which is what he's trying to do with every single lesson. The approach is always the same. Change your awareness from the body level to the higher level of your mind.
Yeah.
So if I know no law except the law of love, then whatever's happening on the body level, pain, suffering, discomfort, they can't be real. There's only love. Love does not contain any of those. Okay, how does that feel?
Yeah, I'm feeling it.
Can you feel that presence arising as you speak it?
Mm.
So that's why these lessons are powerful. So I don't know how often you practice them a day, but this is how you practice it. You interrupt the default pattern of the ego, and you go into this awareness whenever you practice the lesson.
Yeah, I'm not doing any of it enough.
So, that's the mind training necessary to undo the ego, because it's a default thought system, and that's just how you've thought for many years. So yes, you're saying, well, interrupt it. The more often you interrupt the ego's pattern in the day, the better. So that's why he's given us the short practice period, saying yes, for twice a day, meditate on it for longer, but in between, it's really important that you keep interrupting the pattern. So especially if you notice the pattern unfolding, you start going back into that old, I've got the ache and the pain, and now I'm dwelling on it, and I'm trying to think of how I can fix it on this level. Then interrupt the pattern and use the lesson for the day, or use I am pure formless awareness of perfect love. Use something just to take you into this transcendent awareness. It looks on all of this and sees it as unreal. No, it's just not real. And you rest it's a very peaceful awareness. You say the words and notice the peace that arises when you say them. It's like, lovely. It rests in this deeply peaceful presence. And you can feel it now, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what will heal it. Just more going more into that presence.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy to move on to number 2.
Yeah. Let me not value false beliefs, nor believe in any law, falsity. Any law, falsity? Is that a word?
Falsity.
Is it?
Instead of idolatry.
Oh, blimey, that's even worse. Can't we just use simple words?
Well, it's what's false. So
Yeah, right.
we could change it to something else. Any law.
Nor believe
False
in
beliefs.
law falsely. No.
Well, it's a noun. Idolatry.
Yeah.
Any
No.
law.
Falseness.
Falseness. That's falsity has made idolatry. That's what he means.
Yeah, all right. I could
It
learn.
does make sense.
I could learn to use it.
Yeah.
But it's just a new word.
Okay.
All right, let me start again. Let me not value false beliefs, nor believe in any law falsity. Doesn't sit with me at all. I'll clear on that later. Any law falsity has made to hide the freedom of the extension of perfect love. I am not bound except by my beliefs. Yet what I am is far beyond my faith in slavery or freedom. I am free because I am my source's extension, and I cannot be bound unless perfect love's truth can lie, and pure formless awareness of perfect love can will that it deceive itself.
That's what keeps resonating with me every time. That
I'm not bound except by my beliefs.
like throughout, isn't it? Like versions of that throughout these paragraphs every time.
Because that's the truth. It's just your belief. You keep yourself in chains, and that that belief can be changed.
Yeah, so when I read the slavery thing, I was thinking about slaves chained up, digging in a field or something. And it's just a belief, isn't it? It's a lack of freedom in the mind.
That I condemn myself to be the slave of the ego, to be a body and to suffer and to die. No one else is doing that to you. You do it to yourself.
Yeah.
That was in unison. Like,
I saw it very clearly in the film The Green Mile, the weekend that it was really very well played out, wasn't it? And about how each of the people on death row, you could see their belief system standing out a mile, and how they were, leading themselves into death very nice, very, purposefully. The belief systems were so clear. It's very interesting watching the films with the Course in Miracles in mind. Very different.
Yeah, exactly. So the movies are very different. You see them if you watched it before. You see it differently because it's all perceptual. The messages, and if they have a spiritual theme, then you start to see that very clearly. He was the miracle worker in that very egoic environment. The miracle worker comes in and it just doesn't obey the laws of the prison. It's like another concept which they can't quite get their heads around. It's like difficult for them to understand it and process it at all. In the end, it's like he transcended. It's like, I'm going away. I don't mind death because it's not my home. I'm not really meant to be here. So I think, don't stop me, because it's actually this world is pain and suffering, and I experience that. So he didn't mind leaving it. But Tom Hanks was he still had guilt about it. So, well, he shouldn't have died. I shouldn't have allowed him to die. But actually, that's what he wanted. He didn't mind. He wasn't scared. So there's a lot of themes in that movie. Actually, it's a great movie. Good versus evil, miraculous healing, power of the mind, power of love to transform the physical realm, to finally change it.
And the kindness of most of the prison guards was amazing. That even in that environment, even though all that harshness, ego stuff charging around them, they were still able to be so compassionate, so kind of loving. It was ridiculous watching.
So even in whatever the situation is, the ego's grim imagining of death and death row, and even there, the miracle is possible. So of course it's possible with a tooth or a physical aches and pains. It's not even a question.
Yeah.
To see the physical is just there to take you more deeply into the mind. It's the only purpose of it. It's just to facilitate the healing on the mind level. That's why it's there. When you've already done that, then the physical thing won't be necessary anymore. The physical experience won't be necessary. So it'll probably disappear.
One of them has. I had 2 wobbly teeth. One is completely all right now. So I'm halfway there. But I don't need it to be any different. It just is interesting.
Yeah, just observe it. So, thoughts, comments, questions on the lesson. It's a nice one. Reminder, you see the themes repeat themselves. This is lesson 277. This was really addressed in lesson 76, the laws, but he comes back to it and he has another look at it, because he's like, well, I know that you still believe in these laws. Not all of them, maybe, but they're still hanging on to some of them. So bring them into mind again, and get you to see, where you're still hanging on. What are the areas that you hold on to the ego's laws still? And you don't give it all to the spirit, because that's where you need to bring the Holy Spirit's awareness into, and let go of those beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay, so happy with that. Shall we go into a meditation? So just making yourself comfortable, sitting with your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes and start off with a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Just clench the sphincter muscle, lock the energy in. Draw the energy up the spine into your heart center. And then up into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. So scan your mind, just notice any thoughts, any emotions, any physical sensations going on. Particularly anything that feels limited, contracted, constricting. In any way, shape or form. So any body conditions, pains, aches, wobbly teeth, just observe those, but it's a very calm, detached way. And I'm just going to let them all go. So help with your breath, so exhale. Blow it all out with the breeze of your breath. The nothingness that it really is. It's going, going. Gone. Blow it all out. Let it all go. Now just observe. So take you through some body scanning and breath watching. Just observe the breath to start with. Flowing in and out through your nostrils. Focus all your attention on the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils and out of the nostrils. Mind wants to wander, start thinking about anything else, past, future, what you have done, what you've got to do, just bring it gently back to the breath. All you have to do is focus all your attention, 100% of your attention on the breath. And the area just below your nose, between your nose and your upper lip. You just keep watching your breath. With each breath, find you going deeper, deeper and deeper into the still, calm, quiet, peaceful presence. And so just keep watching your breath in the background. Set this breath in motion. Just let it happen to you, through you, and for you. And now run your awareness down your body from the crown of your head. Just observe what's happening in the head, so the back of the head, scalp, front, observe the sensations in the face and the jaw without judgment. There's no attempt to name or label or judge these, just observing as the pure witness. So the sensations in your neck and shoulders, this awareness going down from the neck and shoulders into your upper arms, triceps, your biceps, and let it penetrate more than skin deep. You're aware of what's going on in the skin, any sensations there, but just observe any sensations deeper in the body. You start to become aware of a life energy, a field of energy deeper in the body. Let your awareness run down your arms to your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, your hands, your fingers. Feel the weight of them hanging limply and heavily off your body. Weight of your arms just hanging off your body. And your awareness all the way back up from the tips of your fingers, your hands, wrists, forearms, your elbows, to your upper arms, triceps, your biceps, your neck and shoulders. Just observing whatever the sensations are on the skin and deeper. Just observe without naming them, judging them, labeling them in any way. Just happy to observe and observe a sensation of itching or scratching or tingling, pressure, heat. These are all things that you observe, but without naming them. You don't have to put a word to them. You just are. Shakespeare's line, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It comes into mind. You make your world dualistic and good and bad because you misperceive. And just let your awareness naturally run down from observe the awareness, observe your upper chest and your upper back, stomach, your lower back. Maybe this limpness, softness, heaviness, warmth. Just observe that without judgment, without craving or desiring it, or avoiding it. Just is what it is. Let this awareness permeate through every cell, every pore, every muscle in your body, down through the lower stomach. And there's a soft, heavy, warm feeling there. Notice that in your lower back. Let this awareness flow down into your groin and your buttocks. So awareness permeates through into your ankles, your feet, toes, all the weight of your legs and your toes just hanging off your body. You're just aware of any sensations. Scan the whole body again in one sweeping awareness. Just breathe in and sweep your awareness up from toes through your feet, your ankles, draw it up. Awareness through your knees, your thighs, back of your thighs, your groin, any areas of tension, tightness, supposed pain or suffering, just observe all of it, really observing your senses. Just a perception, just ultimately false. So run your awareness all the way back up through your groin and your buttocks and your lower stomach and your back, chest, to the upper chest, head, down through your arms. And you're just aware. You're aware without any interpretation. No judgment. And so just sit in that field of awareness. Breathing, still watching your breath. And let these words just permeate in. So just drop into your higher awareness. Confirm whatever it is that you're thinking and experiencing this evening. So today's lesson is all about freeing yourself from self-made laws. I do not bind my self, capital self, the laws I made. So just repeat these words after me in your mind. Just say that your extension is free. My source. Let me not imagine. Let me not imagine I've bound myself, the laws I made, to rule the body. I am not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. I am not changed by what is changeable. I'm not slave to any laws of time. I am as you extend me because I know no law except the law of love. Love is pure formless awareness. Awareness that is able to perceive everything, not judge it, label it, to interpret it. So let me not value false beliefs, nor believe in any law, idolatry, or falsity is made to hide the freedom of the extension of perfect love. I am not bound except by my beliefs. Yet what I am is far beyond my faith in slavery or freedom. I am free because I am my source's extension. And I cannot be bound unless perfect love's truth can lie. And pure formless awareness of perfect love can will that it deceive itself. And just rest here in this deep peace, this very surrendered state. A couple of minutes of deep silence. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, nothing else to think about. Just breathe again, just observing the breath. And be observing all of your body's sensations as one whole awareness, if you can do that. Surrender into the peace of God that passes all understanding, as it's called in the Bible. Experience this transcendent dimension of pure, formless awareness. You are this awareness. Just rest in the stillness. And if you notice any thoughts coming in, pull you back into the timeline, to the story of you, characters doing or saying, said or done, problems, difficulties, hurdles, obstacles. If there's anything there that's seemingly disturbing, it's deep awareness, just remind yourself that I am not a body, I am free. So I do not bind myself with laws I made. Exhale, just blow all these laws away, these beliefs, that's all they are. Let them go like dark clouds leaving you. All that's left is pure blue sky of your pure formless awareness. The light of your source that shines through it. So rest in that light, in your own true awareness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, just surrender into the light completely and fully for a couple of minutes of deep silence. So just gently coming back. It's an awareness of the body and the breath, senses in the world. So hopefully you went into true awareness, pure formless awareness, perfect love. Now you bring your awareness back into the body, but there's a subtle shift. Everything is just held in this awareness. And some of the false beliefs have just been let go of through this practice of taking your mind into this awareness. Everything will heal ultimately. So now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. 1, just breathing in. Noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clench the sphincter muscle. Notice that action. Notice the breath flowing into the nostrils. Pause at the top of the inhale. Once again, check in, scan your mind. Noticing any thoughts, feelings, emotions going on. Particularly anything that feels negative, limiting, contracted, constricting at all. And just wanting to let all that go. Pulling it all away with the breeze of your breath. Dark clouds leaving you, it's going, gone. Notice how the energy you raised up into the crown of your head subsides back down to the lower stomach and the groin. Notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling with your hands and touching. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. You're just aware of all these things. Aware, but without judgment. The mind is quiet. So you just observe the sense perceptions. You're training your mind not to name and judge and label and interpret, create a story around the senses. Being free of the story is the whole point, raising you up to the pure formless awareness of perfect love, out of the story of time and space, separate self. In that story, there's always pain and suffering and sickness and death, but in the transcendent pure formless awareness of perfect love, there's just reality. You as the one self, Christ, connected to your source, fully aware of that source. So you set the intention to stay there the rest of the afternoon, evening. Use this breath break, 3-minute breath break I recorded to help you do that, or just practice this lesson in under a minute. Bring it to mind with a breath or two, giving you instructions to do this in under a minute as well in your Telegram message and email. So practice well, and that will keep you in this transcendent state and away from the ego's thought system of pain and suffering. So it is said and so it is done. So on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just look around, take a minute just to observe everything with your eyes and your ears, where the senses are engaged, but there's no judgment. It's just same way as you just scanned your body and just perceived objectively with no thoughts about it. You observe the world and whatever senses are showing you, and just don't judge. And notice how peaceful it is when you do that. The same peace underlies in all of your sense perceptions. And so the more you stay in this peace, the more you are freeing your mind from body orientation, from body identification. So practice this lesson well. It will help you do that and help you heal whatever conditions are in the mind, caused by the mind. on the body level, but without an emphasis on them. So brings us to the end of the meditation. So let's just ask Sally, you've got to go, but does Lynn want to continue? Lynn, do you need to go? Or,
I do today, I'm afraid, because we've got Sue coming in for the game, so I haven't eaten yet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that was useful. I'll just read the there's a reading on the manual for teachers, so I'll read that and record it so you can listen to that this evening. So yeah, practice well and hopefully see you again in the Zoom room soon.
Thank you.
Interesting to see how this unfolds for you.
Yeah. Yes, bye.
Okay, bye. All right, so just going to the manual for teachers. Here are the pupils. All right, so we're going to just translate manual for teachers, which is what are the levels of teaching. So what are the levels of teaching? Just going to copy and paste this, translate it. So you're watching on YouTube, just hold on for a couple of minutes. I'm going to start doing the translation. This is section 3 of the Manual for Teachers. Which is on what are the levels of teachings. So we're changing sun into extension, God into formless awareness of perfect love. Salvation into awakening. Holy becomes wholly aware. His becomes its. Okay, so all right, so Let's have a look at today's the Manual for Teachers, section 3. Manual for Teachers, which answers the question, what are the levels of teaching? What are the levels of teaching? So what I've done is a translation. It's original, and then there's a translation going on. So I'll read the original and then I'll read the translation. Teachers of God have no set teaching level. Each teaching and learning situation involves a different relationship at the beginning, although the ultimate goal is always the same, to make of the relationship a holy relationship, in which both can look upon the Son of God as sinless. There's no one from whom a teacher of God cannot learn, so there's no one whom he cannot teach. However, from a practical point of view, he cannot meet everyone, nor can everyone find him. Therefore, the plan includes very specific contacts to be made for each teacher of God. There are no accidents in salvation. Those who are to meet will meet, because together they have the potential for a holy relationship. They are ready for each other. So alternatively, the teachers of God, being pure formless awareness and perfect love, shorten it to perfect love, have no set teaching level. Each teaching learning situation involves a different relationship at the beginning, although the ultimate goal is always the same. Just to make of the relationship a wholly aware relationship, a holy relationship in which both can look upon the extension of perfect love as sinless. And we change sinless to innocent. So that's the only purpose of any relationship. Any wholly aware relationship is about seeing the person as completely innocent. There's no one from whom a teacher of perfect love cannot learn. So there's no one whom he cannot teach. However, from a practical point of view, he cannot meet everyone, nor can everyone find him. Therefore, the plan includes very specific contacts to be made for each teacher of perfect love. There are no accidents in awakening. Those who are, we'll put in the word destined there, those who are destined to meet will meet, because together they have the potential for a wholly aware relationship. They are ready for each other. So there are no accidents in this plan of awakening. If you meet someone and you're a teacher of God, you're meant to meet them, and it's part of your destiny and theirs. So then he goes on to talk about the simplest level of teaching. It appears to be quite superficial. Consists of what seem to be very casual encounters, a, quote, chance meeting of two apparent strangers in an elevator, a child who's not looking where he's going, running into an adult by chance, two students happening to walk home together. So these are the so-called chance encounters. But these are not chance encounters, says Yeshua. Each of them has the potential for becoming a teaching, learning situation. Perhaps the seeming strangers in the elevator will smile to one another. Perhaps the adult will not scold the child for bumping into it. Perhaps the students will become friends. Even at the level of the most casual encounter, it is possible for two people to lose sight of separate interests, if only for a moment. That moment will be enough. Awakening has come. So even in these very casual encounters, which we have a lot of in our lives. Just think of going to the supermarket and there's a cashier at the supermarket and you have a little encounter with them. You can make that into a wholly aware encounter in which there's a connection, which you see beyond your separate selves, separate interests. There's a connection. An awakening in that moment has come. So we can make our lives dedicated to these holy encounters, these holy aware encounters, even at the basic level of casual encounters. And he says it is difficult to understand the levels of teaching the universal course. There's a concept as meaningless in reality as is time. So difficult to understand levels of teaching the universal course, which is to understand who you are. This concept is meaningless in reality as is time. So there aren't really levels. The illusion of one permits the illusion of the other. So we have an illusion of time, we have an illusion of levels of this teaching. In time, the teacher of God seems to begin to change his mind about the world with a single decision, and then learns more and more about the new direction as he teaches it. We've covered the illusion of time already, but the illusion of levels of teaching seems to be something different. Perhaps the best way to demonstrate that these levels cannot exist is simply to say that any level of the teaching learning situation is part of God's plan for at-one-ment. And his plan can have no levels, being a reflection of his will. Salvation is always ready and always there. God's teachers work at different levels. The result is always the same. So, to translate that, it's difficult to understand that levels of teaching the universal course as a concept is meaningless in reality. We'll make reality a capital R, as is time. The illusion of one permits the illusion of other. So because of the illusion of time, we have the illusion of levels. In time, the teacher of perfect love seems to begin to change his mind with a single decision and then learns more and more about the new direction as he teaches it. So we make a decision that we want to change. Usually it starts with that. My life's not working. I want to change. I don't necessarily know how, but I'm open to it. And then as we follow the guidance of the Holy Spirit, more and more, we start going in a new direction in our life. And we learn more and more about this new direction as we teach it. So we teach what we need to learn. We've covered the illusion of time already, but the illusion of levels of teaching seems to be something different. Perhaps the best way to demonstrate that these levels cannot exist in truth is simply to say that any level of the teaching learning situation is part of perfect love's plan for at-one-ment. So it's all part of the plan, whatever level it seems to be occurring at. And its plan can have no levels, being a reflection of its will, of its undivided awareness. Translate its will as it's undivided awareness by definition. It's undivided, has no levels. So awakening is always ready and always there. There are formless awareness of perfect love's teachers. Perfect love's teachers work at different levels, but the result is always the same. So in time, we seem to be working at different levels, but ultimately the result is the same. The result is at-one-ment. The oneness of the mind, the restoration of the mind to this pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's always the objective. That's always the ultimate outcome of any learning situation that's been given to the Holy Spirit, where the Holy Spirit's the guide. So each teaching learning situation is maximal in the sense that each person involved will learn the most that he can from the other person at that time. In this sense, and in this sense only, we can speak of levels of teaching. Using the term in this way, the second level of teaching is a more sustained relationship in which, for a time, two people enter into a fairly intense teaching-learning situation and then appear to separate. As with the first level, these meetings are not accidental, nor is what appears to be the end of the relationship a real end. Again, each has learned the most he can at the time. Yet all who meet will someday meet again. What is the destiny of all relationships? To become wholly aware. So we meet again. Doesn't explain that, but if not in this life, maybe in another life, we meet again. And ultimately, to interpret that from the ultimate reality, we meet in the one awareness. We realize we are the same awareness, and we're all part of that same awareness. So we meet there. We join in that awareness. So pure formless awareness of perfect love is not mistaken in its extension. So there's no mistake. We are this awareness, and no matter how much we might deny it, pure formless awareness of perfect love is still our source, and we are still its extension. So the third level, so that's the second level, is a more intense learning situation where for a time, maybe that's a few months, a few years, people seem to come together and then they separate. So they learn as much as they can learn from each other at that time. And that's okay. That's just saying all of this is okay. Parent separation seems to happen, but really what's happened is they've moved away from each other because they've learned what much as they can learn at that time. Then we have the third level of teaching, which occurs in relationships, which once they are formed are lifelong. These are teaching learning situations in which each person is given a chosen learning partner who presents him or her with unlimited opportunities for learning. Unlimited opportunities for learning. So these can be very challenging relationships. Often our most intimate, special relationships are these kinds of relationships. So these relationships are generally few because their existence implies that those involved have reached a stage simultaneously which the teaching-learning balance is actually perfect. This does not mean that they necessarily recognize this. In fact, they generally do not. They may even be quite hostile to each other for some time and perhaps for life. Yet, should they decide to learn it, the perfect lesson is before them and can be learned. The perfect lesson is there for both of them. Perfect lesson is there for both of them to learn. And if they decide to learn that lesson, they become the saviors of the teachers who falter. So they become the awakeners. Of the teachers who falter and may even seem to fail. No teacher of perfect love can fail to find the help he needs. So this third level of teaching can be a lifelong relationship with someone, and they have unlimited opportunities to learn from each other. Often they don't recognize that. These are often very difficult relationships, but the lesson is there for both of them to learn, should they choose to. And if they decide to do that, they become the teachers of the teachers, the awakeners of the teachers who falter and may even seem to fail. So no teacher of perfect love can fail to find the help he needs. It's the final concluding sentence. So the help will be given in whatever form, whatever level of teaching seems to be happening. It's all coming from the source, which is pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's designed to restore our minds to that awareness. That's the only goal, that's the only curriculum, that's what's always going on. That's why ultimately there are no levels of teaching, because it's one awareness just restoring itself into the minds of its extension that is seemingly denied this awareness. That's the universal program. It's going on. So I hope that's helpful. To maybe you can reflect on this and look at the different levels of teaching and learning in your own life. Casual encounters, more intense encounters that last for a while, and then the long-term relationships you have, and understand that all of them offer you learning. You can learn from all of them, even those relationships that seem to have ended. Maybe there's some learning still there for you, which will ultimately restore your mind. If you learn these lessons back to pure formless awareness of perfect love through this learning. So that brings us to the end of this section. Thanks for listening. I hope that reading and translation was helpful, and I wish you good practicing of this, good application into your life. So just take some time and reflect on these three levels and how they impact you currently in your life, and how you can, what lessons you still need to learn, and that will potentially help you greatly to learn what you need to learn from all levels of your relationships. So thanks very much for listening. That's the end of today's session. There's not another one this evening, so I wish you good practicing. Practice the workbook lesson again frequently, ideally every hour, by listening to the breath break recording I've sent you, or you can follow the instructions I've sent you in your Telegram or email message to practice it, and listen one more time to one of the longer meditations posted to the Telegram group to practice one of these lessons, practice the lesson in a longer practice period sometime this evening. So thanks for joining earlier, Sally and Lynn, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Namaste. Which means the perfect love in me honors and acknowledges that same perfect love in you.